Come check out another great range of paints for this hobby. This is the Army Painter, the brand new Army Painter Mega Paint Set for the holidays.
Spiky bits.
Welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. Rob Baer here with you today, going over a new product. Actually, it's so new, I don't even know how much this costs, to be quite honest. The guys at Army Painter asked me to take a look at their paints, and I said, you know what? I love you guys' stuff. I've been using it for years. I would be flattered to take a look at your new Army Painter box set. Now, basically, the way Army Painter works is they're pigmented paint, and recently they just added these, I think they call them war paints, these dropper bottles here in the past like 3 or 4 years. But what they were really known for was the sprays and the dips originally, because it was a really quick way to paint your armies. You just spray it and then use the dips, which you don't see here. They actually came in the little Minwax size kind of cans, to brush them on and get a really nice effect. Now, it wasn't super detailed, and it was probably, barely tabletop quality, but if you wanted your army painted and you wanted more time for playing, this was the way to go. And now they've expanded on that. 2016, they're coming out with the reformulated line. They've added a lot more colors. I actually forget how many colors they've come out with, but it's a lot more than that's here. They have this brand new rack coming out that they're going to be delivering to stores, I think in January or early Q1 2017. But the cool part is right here, this is the color match thing. If you spray it with this ultramarine blue, then you can hit it with the ultramarine blue out of this particular set. And some of my test figures, the little Harlequins that you always see me working on, tinkering with some of the technical paints and things from Games Workshop, I actually sprayed with the Fortress, or the Uniform Gray spray. So we're going to try this. Now, I'm not sure it's going to match because this is the new reformulated line, and I have the old spray can, so I'm not sure how all that works. But we're going to find out together. Even if it doesn't work, it would still be cool to see how close it gets, because I sprayed them, about 6 months ago or 8 months ago or so. So I imagine there's going to be some tonal differences to begin with. Caveats aside, what if it matched? How dope would that be, right? I already love their stuff. I love the consistency of their paints. They're so thin. Not thin that they're runny, but just they always seem to be very workable. And with the dropper bottle configuration, it really seems to, I've never had one dry out on me, let's just put it that way. I've had plenty of Vallejo paints dry out on me. I've had plenty of G-Dub paints dry out on me. I've never had an Army Painter paint dry out on me. I use a lot of their metallics. I really like their metallics. Are quick and easy to use. Now, this particular paint set, let's flip it over and show you basically some more of the stuff. So there's the colors. Now, there's a couple different types of the war paints, and they kind of go over that right here, like the cap system, basically how it works. So there's effects, and then there's blacks and metallics. The white caps right here are the quick shade inks, which they also come in that little can that you've probably seen around, essentially like 20 or 30 bucks. That's a really cool deal. But you can use these little, the little bottles are just the same stuff. You get in there with a chisel brush, and I'm going to show you today. We're going to go over to the Beats Lab table and actually slam it down and use some of these paints, and I'm going to tell you what I think about them. Not that I haven't used them in the past, but I want to show you guys basically how they work. Now, opening this up, I thought it was really neat, because it's basically like a little hobby box in and of itself, a little project box almost. So they got these little like spots for you to put your brushes, and not only that, it's like a what is it? Oh, that's just taped in there. So that's basically how it goes. But you can put your brushes in there, or you can put extra paints, kind of whatever, or you can basically hide your brushes up in there. Then you've got all the paints laid out in these neat little trays, right? So that's pretty cool to see. Then they have the Army Painter Guide, and their website is actually very, very useful. You want to check out Army Painter because they have all these like sweet guides on there, and they're like, hey, what color would you like to paint? You're like, yellow. Okay, well, here's some ideas on how to paint yellow, and they show you step by step how to do it, and also how it will turn out using some of the different washes and things. Then there's a little catalog for some of their other products. They've got a whole range of affordable products out there. I use a lot of them actually in the studio here. You've probably seen me mention them in the past. And then a new complete Wargaming war paint set. This is the whole range, all the paints, more than what's in here. There's like 50 in here. So I imagine this thing's like at least 200 bucks, because these things are like $3 or $4 each, right? So there's the whole line, the whole new line, and then the rest of the paints in their neat little trays right here. And they give you little spots, you can put your brushes or whatever in the side there. But there it is. So now let's box this back up and go over to the other side of the Beats Lab and show you guys how to use these bad boys. Alright, so here you go. You can kind of see what we're working with here. A couple of little, what are these guys? Dire Avengers. And you can tell I primed them with that uniform gray, but I was looking through the box and I couldn't find any uniform gray. And I was like, man, I must have just misread that one. So I was a little disappointed, but we're not going to be able to show you that comparison. But I did find a can of Desert Yellow, and I primed up one of these guys in Desert Yellow, and I'm waiting for it to dry right now. But while it's doing that, we're not going to waste any time. We're just going to get in here and do some cool stuff. So I'm going to show you using their regiment brush, and I've used this regiment brush a lot in the past. It's a good workhorse brush, but depending on how much painting you do, you may need to replace it after a couple of months, or just depending on how much work you do. I mean, every brush has its limits, so let's not get it twisted, you know what I mean? But eventually their time runs out for everyone here. Now, like I said, it's got this dope little dropper kind of system, and you can tell just by me squeezing that out that they are semi-watery paints. They're really great to use. Look at that consistency, and the metallic really shines through there. So I'm just going to go over these little gems very carefully, just to give you an idea of how shiny and how detailed. I think one of my lights just went out. Oh, lights, you're the worst. That's alright, we still got, I think the camera compensated. So there you can kind of see, really good quality. I love these because they just have a lower, I don't know, what is it, viscosity, I guess? They're basically just kind of watery. Like, they're very easy to use. You don't have to worry about them chunking up on you and stuff like that. So there you can kind of see how that works. Now, they had some of the effects, which I thought was pretty neat. Like this right here is glistening blood, which is basically, their version of blood for the blood god. Oh, I should have shooken that up. You would think I would know these things by now. That sometimes you do have to do a little bit of work to get the best results. Whoa, look at that color. I'm liking that. That's nice and bright. So something like that, we would do what the sponge technique, right? Like where's my sponge? Here we go. We get a little sponge. Normally I'd have some, have this with the tweezers, but, ooh, is that dried up enough? I'm kind of using these, kind of learn them as I'm going right here. I think it'll work. Let's try it. So it's a little wide splatter pattern, but you kind of get what I'm working with here. So it's not quite as bright. It's very similar to the blood for the blood god. That's a little bit darker. I actually kind of prefer, me personally, using the new gemstone red paint instead of the blood for the blood god, because yeah, I know dried paint, dried blood's supposed to be dark and stuff, but I just prefer like a brighter, kind of shinier blood. But that's pretty dope. It works just the same. And actually, speaking of technicals, they also have the Rise of Rust. They call it dry rust, but it looks very similar to Rizza Rust, the Rizza Rust that I definitely use a lot of. Oh man, I gotta really shake these things up. Okay, good to know there. And this basically just works like it's just a simple kind of dry brush type deal. You're just gonna sponge it on. You're gonna do, I don't know, just kind of depending on how big a surface. Generally, you're probably doing it on a tank. So, but here we're not. We're just kind of fiddling around here till my other miniature dries. So here, same thing. Nice. Now, generally, you just don't go in and just do rust on its own, but I can tell you right now that's very similar to the Games Workshop rust. Just by looking at it, usually you have probably some browns and stuff underneath it, but again, a really great quality product right there. That's pretty fun. Digging that. I like that one. Now I wanted to show you, I like their black. There it is, their matte black. I actually keep this in my top 20 paints just to use, because black is one of those colors that when you need to use it to line something out, you want to make sure it's ready to go and it's not clumpy, it's not gunky, and you get a nice solid coat with it. So as you can see right here, it's very thin, and that doesn't make it any less effective when you're trying to go over and do a nice big base coat right here. You can tell that it goes on thin. This is great for doing bases, you know, around the lips. It goes on nice and consistent. A lot of control. I mean, it's a little bit hard to control this because you are actually closer to the model than my eyes are. So I'm kind of generally not used to painting very detail oriented when I do these videos, but you can kind of get the idea there. Very easy to use stuff. So I think by now the little desert yellow miniature is going to be dry. So we'll see if we can get that color match to pop out. Again, different color, different spray, purchased, you know, not this year, probably last year. So I'm not sure if it's going to work, but I definitely want to try just to give you guys an idea of the whole color match system. All right, so here it is. You can tell I just kind of hit it real quick with some of that desert yellow. I didn't get up underneath it like normally I would, spend a lot of time on it, but I just kind of scrambled to get this video done for you guys. So nice solid coat up here. So we're gonna grab our desert yellow from this box, and already it's looking very similar, huh? I don't know what this experimentation is gonna do, but again, if you're unsure and you have a can of, you know, old Army Painter primer that might have a little bit of years or age on it, you might want to just contact them and be like, hey, this is my can. They can check lot numbers, you know, they can kind of let you know what's up there, just so you don't go ruining a project. Because I'm not sure, again, how color matchy this thing's gonna be, just kind of sitting for as long as it has. There you can kind of definitely tell that these paints are definitely a little watery, which is great because it's very easy to use, but sometimes they will require extra, you know, coats. So here we go. Let's see if this matches. That's just ridiculous. It totally matches. Wow. I've had this can of paint for like 2 years, and I used it in the Necron tutorial that you've probably seen on here. And that's just, I mean, this is like the coolest thing ever. Like, I cannot tell you how cool that is. Like, if I had tools like this back in the day when I was learning how to paint in like the 90s or late 80s, I guess, instead of using like testers and enamels and just using the sprays and saving the time, oh my gosh, that would have been so much better for my my illustrious painting career. But man, check that out. It totally color matches their new formula and their old spray can that's been sitting around my studio for like a year. That's just, I don't know. I am just flabbergasted by that. I didn't expect it to work, but it worked, and that is very cool to me. You know what I mean? One other thing I wanted to show you, and it actually will look cool on this color, is their quick shades, or their washes. Basically, their AKA dips that a lot of people like to call them. Since this is a yellow, I'm gonna go with the strong tone over this one because I just want to see how it looks. Another thing that's cool about this is a lot of people use these for painting their Star Wars miniature ships to get in the cracks and everything. Apparently, if you give it a nice coat of seal coat or something like that, it really works well to get in all the cracks and all the nooks and crannies on the ships there. Now you're gonna want to grab a nice flat chiseled brush. Now this is a little bit older because I don't want. I'm not sure if this is going to stain my brush or anything. I don't think it will, but I've been burned before, and I don't want that to be the case here. So basically, you take this stuff. Now you can immerse it. You can do. There's all sorts of different ways to use this stuff. But what I found works good is after you go in here, you do a nice base coat. Like you would hit the plumes up with one color. Check our Army Painter site. They have a fantastic website with every color combination and what it would look like with these dips on there, so you know ahead of time, and you can even like kind of shop for your color scheme by a menu almost. All right, so we're gonna go in here. That's probably not dry, so we're gonna go right here. And it's like magic. Look at that. Is that not the coolest thing in the history of ever? It just instant shades it. Now, here's where the technique comes in. You can't just leave it. I mean, you could, don't get me wrong. But you want to just come back and make sure that you get all those areas with a bunch of residue or residual, and just kind of spread it out and kind of thin it out and kind of get it everywhere. And that way, it's not as bad, and you can it doesn't look all chunky. And then you can also use your excess from the bottoms where you just wiped it off to just hit more areas. Generally, I like to work from the top down when I'm doing washes and things, but since this is still technically wet up here, I didn't want to like mess it all up and ruin the effect. But there you go. That's basically how it works. It is literally that easy. It takes longer to base coat your whole army than it does to add the depth and the contrast with one pass of the wash, and then go ahead and use the rest of their products to base and lip your little bases right there. So that's it for this one, folks. I am still in shock that matched after all those years. Like, that is just crazy. I love Army Painter. I work them into my lineup every time I can because I love the consistency of their products. And obviously it's not just the paints themselves, but just the tonality between their sprays and then the whole Army Painter system. It literally is a system, and it's great for beginners and veterans alike.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. Thelongwar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.